I just want to bring a special shout out to something that I saw yesterday. I'm pretty sure all of you saw yesterday, and that was Senator Bernie Sanders being on the Joe Rogan Experience. And I will say this. The very fact that that video now stands, I think, at 2.5 million views right now on YouTube says a lot about Bernie Sanders as a candidate, and the very fact that he's willing to go on any network, not only be on MSNBC, CNN, or independent media networks, but also be on Fox News, but now being on Joe Rogan's show as well. And that says a lot about the strengths of his character, but also he had a chance to really talk about his policies and the issues that he didn't really have a chance to delve into during the debates. And I think the one thing that stood out, and of course there's many things that stood out, but I want us to get into the show as soon as possible, is that Joe Rogan asked Bernie Sanders about the debates, how they're set up, and how the media handles debates.
Okay. And
Bernie Sanders compared how the media, like media in other countries, give political candidates 15 minutes, a half hour, or whatever time they need to talk about their policies and what they want to do, or how they're going to convince voters to vote for them. And it's the media in those other countries' responsibility to give them that airtime. Whereas in the United States, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they don't. They have a 30-second, 2-minute sound bites, and that's it. And you have to, and Bernie Sanders saying, like, I don't like it, but you have to come up with a very popular catchphrase. Well, like, I wrote the damn bill, for example.
What's even more disturbing about it all is the really flashy openings.
Yeah.
You know, it's just super, like, when I was watching it, and I don't watch a lot of television at all, but it was opening, and my brain literally had to make a switch from, oh, I'm about to watch football, to like, oh God, no, this is the Democratic debate.
Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden.
It was there almost subconsciously because I'm so used to seeing the intro to football, and even the music sounds very much like what they played at the opening of football games. So I was really taken aback by that. And then of course, I mean, they have to make it really entertaining.
Yeah. And I think, like, you have to be a certain candidate to really, or he's got to have enough name recognition to really go out there. Like Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Vice President Joe Biden. Well, not Vice President Joe Biden, but only because he has a name.
I think that as far as the debate stage is concerned, I think Warren and Bernie Sanders have killed it. You know, they've really nailed what it is they need to nail in order to succeed with the press. And I think that that's years and years of practice. If you really look at even when, you know, Elizabeth Warren, when she questions people, you know, it's really incredible how she can wrap up a question or a thought or a point quickly and snappy, such that when they're playing it in the news later on the next day, she sounds suave as hell. You know, it's just the same thing on the debate stage. And so, but getting back, because there are so many questions I had about the Joe Rogan interview with Bernie Sanders, and you introduced it as if you were very surprised that Bernie Sanders would go on Joe Rogan. Well, are you more surprised about that, or are you more surprised about Fox? Him going on something like Fox News.
No. What I'm more surprised at is I think it's not surprised, but I think the very fact that, because I've been following Joe Rogan's, I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel. I follow his content. He does a great job interviewing guests. He interviews everybody. I knew that he was able to get Tulsi Gabbard on his show not once but twice, but with the very fact he got Senator Bernie Sanders on, it's incredible, because for me it says a lot about where media is going in this country and where people are going, and it's not traditional media anymore. I think Joe Rogan, I mean, you know, as someone who's a content creator on YouTube and on social media, you know, the very fact he got a leading U.S. politician, somebody who could very well win the nomination if the DNC doesn't commit election fraud, on his show says a lot about YouTube content creators and why we need original content creators, because Joe Rogan created that show by himself. I mean, he was able to do that. It's similar to how we're trying to create this show here at Heartlands Media.
You are creating the show.
Yeah, exactly. And that, but I think it's really says that traditional media is no longer relevant, because you got comedy shows at late night where you have like a politician come on, they're able to do this, but Joe Rogan had a full-on conversation with Senator Bernie Sanders.
How long was the interview?
I think it was about an hour and 40 minutes.
Wow.
I think
2.5 million views. Hour and 70 minutes.
All right, thank you for the correction.
2.5 million views. What would the average viewership of something like Rachel Maddow be? Do we know anything like that?
I think if you were uploaded onto social media, the viewership would be in the millions. But even on traditional television, I don't watch traditional television anymore.
Right. I don't watch anything.
And it's just like, I've given up on corporate media because corporate media, look, everyone, Fox News and MSNBC, CNN, they're the same. It's the same corporate BS that we get all the time. All the media is controlled by 6 major corporations. You're going to get the same neoliberal soup, and I think I'm tired of eating that soup. So I think for me, I'm excited and surprised at the very fact that you're able to see a politician who's trying to get people's votes.
What I think is even more amazing and what this really points to is that basically, Bernie Sanders candidates, major candidates, are going to outlets like Joe Rogan. I think that's more the conversation because what that means is that they're going after the voters.
Yeah.
And that's where the people are, right? Nobody's watching. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. That's A, hyperbolic, I know. But B, I don't actually know the numbers of what television news is bringing in off the top of my head. I'm sure it's easy to find or look up.
It's mostly the senior citizen demographic.
Yeah, and then the demographic is also a little, on its way out.
Yeah.
So I think what it really speaks to, Bernie Sanders going to Joe Rogan, is that the major political candidates know where to go to get the vote. Right. And it is no longer to big donors and major corporations.
I will challenge you on this. Yes, most people, voters now, especially those who want to participate, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, are going to be watching shows like Joe Rogan or Heartlands Media or Jimmy Dore or Mikas Sukas or any of these other independent media networks. But you want to know who I see who's not going to do that? Joe Biden. He would never do that.
Well, that's
Kamala
because
Harris. She would never do that.
I think that when
Cory
you don't
Booker,
have integrity in your views, it's really hard to go and have honest conversations with honest media.
Yeah.
Because the media isn't really supposed to be your friend.
No.
We're supposed to be curious. We're supposed to be nosy. We're supposed to, get in their business and ask hard questions. What about this vote? What about that? And when I say when you don't have integrity, what I mean is when you don't really believe what you're saying.
Right.
Or you believe maybe what you're saying, but your actions don't speak to it. Right. It gets much more embarrassing, and it actually it could really hurt them, or they could see it hurting them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think if Kamala Harris went on Joe Rogan, it would probably help her. I think putting yourself in front of people is probably the best way to go instead of avoiding. And again, I'm not Kamala Harris. I'm not in her position. I don't know everything that she's done and hasn't done that she's ashamed to talk about or not ashamed to talk about, because that's really what that's what it says to me.
Right. But the thing is, even then, a lot of these neoliberal candidates, because I look at someone like Biden or Kamala Harris and I think, well, let's rewind back the clocks. Would they even consider going on to shows like TYT way back then? Because when Bernie Sanders went on TYT in 2016,
it's the same conversation.
It is the same conversation. It's just my initial thought is this: is that if you're going to be running for office, you have to go to new media outlets. You have to reach out to where the viewers are at, to where the voters are at, because traditional media, television and radio, for all intents and purposes, are done, which is why you're seeing cable news now be in the trending section on YouTube. When, in fact, I can remember the days when original content creators, people making interesting content, were the original trenders on YouTube. That's how old I am now. I'm remembering something on the internet.
Oh God, don't even. I'm older than you. Stop it.
I know, but it just says a lot. But I'm really happy to see that Bernie Sanders and his campaign acknowledged something, and of course they were way ahead of it in 2016.
They were way ahead of the game.
Yeah, but for one final note, it's just for Bernie Sanders to do this says a lot. Traditional media is done, new media is taking over, and that's what we're trying to do here for Heartlands Media. And I have to tip my hat off to Joe Rogan. He runs a really good show, has great interviews, talks to anybody who comes on this show, and I think as far as I'm concerned, it's the future, and it's how it should be.